ever lived. I'll be with you boys in a minute. He was bad in Captain Clay. He bad in Sugar Ray. He bad in that. Who that? The new boy got? Mike Tyson. Look like a bulldog. He bad at him too. Rocky Montana. Let me tell you something wonderful. Rocky Montana was good, but compared to Joe Louis, Rocky Montana ain't.
Oh yes. The classic barbershop debate. It's something that has gone on for decades and something that we can all expect to continue for decades to come. Every time you see this red, blue, and white pole, you begin to mentally prepare yourself and recall every bit of sports history you've ever known. Because while pretty much everyone else in your life has told you that having all that knowledge about sports is practically useless, you knew that you'd arrive at this moment. You knew that you'd arrive at this place where all your consumption of sports would pay off. It's the ultimate testing ground of your knowledge. It's your debate stage where ultimately the question of all sports questions will be asked.
Michael Jordan, LeBron James comparison. So you know I'm here for it, right?
The GOAT in basketball. LeBron, GOAT status. LeBron or MJ?
Well, that's not entirely accurate, because you wouldn't be asked the question Jordan or LeBron. Nah, chances are you'd have an old head straight tell you.
Jordan is better than LeBron. LeBron was giving up. LeBron gave up. Jordan never would have gave up. Jordan never would have gave up. You heard it here first.
And so after watching everything that went down with LeBron and the Lakers in the 2023 playoffs, and with Bron being on the receiving end of a sweep for the third time in his career, I began to ask myself, would Jordan have ever let this happen to him? Would Jordan have ever not been the best player on the court in a playoff series? Overall, do the people out there that start their sentences in the Jordan versus LeBron debate with Jordan would never actually have a point? And it's that, my friends, that I plan to get to the bottom of today. And by the end of this video, we all should be able to clearly determine who the GOAT is. No, I'm just playing. But whether you're on the MJ or LeBron GOAT train, you should leave here today fully prepped for your next haircut.
It cannot always be night.
From the time LeBron James was in high school, he already had a world of expectations on his shoulders. But when you get the chosen one tattooed across them, you're basically saying, bring it on. And from the moment LeBron stepped foot onto the Sacramento Kings court for his first ever NBA game, the man has pretty much said, I see your expectations, and I raise you $38,652. But of course, the 20-year career that LeBron has turned in thus far hasn't been without its shortcomings. Like all great athletes, there are
steps to success.
As LeBron's final layup attempt was rejected in Game 4, the Nuggets completed the sweep and advanced to their first NBA Finals in franchise history. This marked the third time in James's career that he has been on the receiving end of a sweep, but the first time that he's been swept before the NBA Finals. The first sweep came in the 2007 Finals against the Spurs. And just his second postseason run, LeBron managed to carry. I mean, we're literally talking throwback, big old Nike Elite backpack carry this team to the finals at 22 years old. Zydrunas Ilgauskas was LeBron's second highest scoring teammate during the 2007 playoffs at 12.6 points per game. By the time Cleveland had ousted top 5 defensive team Detroit in the Eastern Conference Finals in 7 games, it was clear that they were outmatched by the Spurs, who featured 3 future Hall of Famers in Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, and Manu Ginobili. The crazy thing is, though, that all but one of these games were decided by single digits, with Game 3 being a 3-point Spurs win and Game 4 being just a 1-point win for San Antonio. Bron's second sweep came in 2018, where he once again managed to carry, and yes, this was 11 years after 2007, but it was still a big old Nike Elite backpack carry, this team to the finals, because Cleveland's inability to keep talent around LeBron throughout both of his tenures there, that didn't ever change. Kevin Love was LeBron's second highest scoring teammate during the 2018 playoffs at 14.9 points per game. By the time Cleveland had ousted Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals in 7 games, it was clear once again that they were outmatched by their finals opponent in the Warriors, who featured 4 future Hall of Famers in Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. And yet, the crazy thing was that half of these games could have been won by Cleveland, especially Game 1, where LeBron dropped 51, 8, and 8, but instead we got this all-time meme as a result. So what about Jordan? Can we make the argument that Jordan would never get swept? No, we can't. In 1986, Jordan missed all but 18 games of his sophomore season with a broken foot. He returned with a month remaining in the season to attempt to will the Bulls into the playoffs, and somehow did with a 30-52 record. This was the second worst record in NBA history to make it into the postseason, behind the 1953 Baltimore Bullets, who somehow made the playoffs with a 16-54 record. They were destroyed by the New York Knicks in a sweep to end their year. The team was folded 2 seasons later, and I don't wonder why. On the contrary, MJ wouldn't let the Bulls go down without a fight, because in 1986, he marched Chicago into Boston and gave it everything he had against 5 future Hall of Famers in Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish, Bill Walton, and Dennis Johnson.
Going baseline. Michael Jordan, the basket good and a foul. Fantastic quickness going to the baseline. That was a pickpocket move if there ever was one. Jordan banks it in, and Jordan with 40 points.
63 for Jordan. A new NBA record has been set in the Boston Garden.
Yeah, 49 points in Game 1. A single-game playoff scoring record. 63 points in Game 2. That still stands to this day. And a new nickname, God disguised as Michael Jordan, from Larry Bird. Pretty good, but Chicago was out in 3 games. In 1987, it was more of the same. 8-seed Bulls versus the 1-seed defending champion Celtics in the first round. MJ was amazing. The rest of his team was not, in comparison to the 5 Hall of Famers who were standing across the way. Another 3-0 sweep for Boston. What comparisons can we make here? Well, in each of these series sweeps in LeBron and Jordan's careers, the circumstances were quite similar. Both were heavy underdogs facing off against much better teams. Both had to carry their teams for them to even be competitive in each series. And I'd say with everything considered, none of these sweeps can be held against either one of them in a GOAT debate. But I'm sure we'll find something here that favors one of them in this conversation. So how about this? I believe when we look at the numbers and use the eye test, that it's fair to say that LeBron was outplayed by another player in the 2023 Western Conference Finals. Just take their basic stats. Points, rebounds, and assists. Nikola Jokic averaged the same amount of points, had more rebounds, and more assists. Now, if you're a LeBron fan, you're probably saying, well, okay, what about this age of advanced analytics? There's got to be a stat out there that shows that LeBron still played the best out of any player in this series, right? Okay, well then, let's take a stat that measures a player's entire modern box score and provides a single numerical value to quantify how well that player performed. LeBron's average game score, 26.9. Jokic's average game score, 27.8. And I hate to break it to you, but we could even slip Jamal Murray in there above LeBron with an average game score of 27.4. Bron fans at this point are probably still hanging on to hope because it's not all about the numbers, right? We got to go by the eye test. Well, I'll just let LeBron tell you about that.
One thing about their team, when you have a guy like Joker, who, as big as he is, but also as cerebral he is, you can't really make many mistakes versus a guy like that. And even when you guard him for one of the best possessions that you think you've guarded him, he puts the ball behind his head, Larry Bird style, and shoots it 50 feet in the air, and it goes in. I think he did it like 4 or 5 times this series. So you do like this to him.
And at this very moment, I know what the Jordan defenders out there are going to say. Jordan would never get outplayed by another player in a series and then salute the other player like this. And well, they have a point on the hat tip. I ain't never seen him do that. But is it actually true that Jordan never got outplayed by another player in a series? To find this out, I searched through all 36 career playoff series that Michael Jordan suited up for so you don't have to see if he was statistically the best player on the court. So, in how many series was Jordan the best player by average game score? All but 2 of them. And the 2 series he finished a near second in are not the ones I would have expected. If any series I thought MJ may have not finished number 1 in average game score for, it would have been the 1995 semis versus Orlando. This series has been marked as the worst in Jordan's career and has even been called his biggest failure. You know the story. MJ had just come back from playing baseball and he didn't look quite like himself with the turnover and clutch time of game 1. Apparently all this rust couldn't stop Jordan from averaging a game score of 21.6 which was plus 1.2 higher than Shaq's average of 20.4. And all of this was in a losing effort. Now, the two series in which MJ finished second in for average game score were surprisingly both in the 1996 playoffs, following the Bulls' most dominant season ever at 72-10. In the first round of the 96 playoffs, the Bulls swept Miami 3-0. Despite Jordan being his team's leading scorer by more than 10 points per game above Scottie Pippen's average, it was Pippen's more well-rounded stat line that gave him the edge in game score by 0.4. Then, in the 96 finals, once again, despite posting a points per game average that was 4 points above all other scorers, Seattle's Shawn Kemp edged out Jordan in game score by 0.4 as well, with more efficient shooting numbers and higher rebounds per game. So once again, another one of these Jordan would never arguments falls through when you look at the numbers. And I quickly want to mention a lot of work was done to make this video a reality, so if you actually like it, there's a subscribe and like button down there, and you know what to do. And if you want to support my channel even further, alright, let's pause for a quick shout out to Rakuten, who is not sponsoring this video, by the way. They're just the #1 option for cash back with online shopping. I use Rakuten whether it's through the website or the app every time I shop online, and I have a link in the description down below. Now, I'm completely transparent. This is an affiliate link. I will get credit if you go to this link, but most importantly, you will get credit, because when you spend $30, you'll get $30 back, and whatever store that you're shopping at, depending on the cash back that they're giving right now, you'll get that percentage back as well. It's legit. I've used this for years. Think about it like this. Support my channel through the link by buying whatever you want online. That's a pretty good deal, right? Let's get back to the video. And this leads into a more broad conversation, one that's harder to conclude with a simple numerical value. And that conversation is a byproduct of the statement, Jordan would never not be the best player on the floor in a series. And despite MJ finishing a near second in game score for 2 playoff series in his career, it's hard to say even then that he wasn't the best player on the floor during those series. And the same has been the case with LeBron throughout his playoff career. Sure, you can argue that Dirk outplayed LeBron in the 2011 finals, and statistically, you'd be right. But no one then, or even in retrospect now, would argue that Dirk was a better overall player than LeBron in 2011. He simply just had a better series. And that's why what happened in the 2023 Western Conference Finals was a first. Because whether you like LeBron or not, we have all been witnesses, pun intended, to a guy who's hands down, without question, been the best player on the court in every playoff series he's suited up for. Until now. Because there was a player on Denver that was definitively better than LeBron, not only in the series statistically, but straight up overall, a better all-around player throughout the entire year. And I never thought the moment that I'd see LeBron not be the best player on the court, it would be because of a dude that used to look like this. With these numbers, Jokic became the first player in NBA history to average a triple-double in a best-of-7 series sweep. He was making improbable shots that made Anthony Davis laugh and shake his head, and LeBron tip his cap. And no matter what LA threw at him, he'd figure out how to handle it and proceed to further carve up their defense. It couldn't be more clear. So let me reach into my Stephen A. Smith vocabulary bag to make the following statement. Jokic was unequivocally, irrevocably, astronomically better than every other player in this series. And you want to know the scary part? This wasn't even his best series in these playoffs. Yup, that's right. Because in the semis, Jokic averaged an insane 34.5 points per game on 59.4% from the field, 13.2 rebounds, and 10.3 assists for an average game score of 33.0. The point is, the Joker is putting together one of the most historic playoff runs statistically in NBA history. At the time of this video's release, the man hasn't even played a finals game yet, and already holds the record for most triple-doubles in an NBA playoff run with 8. So, like all good basketball media must do, how can I loop this back around to LeBron? Well, it took this kind of historic effort from Jokic in the conference finals to finally dethrone a dude who's 38 years old and in his 20th season. Not to mention a guy who posted a personal and conference finals record for first half points since the play-by-play era in 1997 with 31 in the first half of Game 4. And he did all this with a torn tendon in his foot. What do I make of all this, man? Well, LeBron's career has looked far different than Jordan's. MJ's prime stretch of dominance with 6 rings in 8 years defines his career, LeBron's robot-like consistency and longevity spanning over 2 decades is what defines his career. We never got a chance to see what an old version of MJ would look like in the playoffs because he didn't play postseason basketball at any point in his career less than his best, whether that be as a young version of himself or in his prime. LeBron has pushed the boundaries of what we thought was possible for a professional athlete in a late stage of their career. And despite all odds being stacked against him, he continues to make history with every game he plays. You know, at least we know one thing. Barbershops everywhere never run out of things to say about these two. I'll be back with another episode of Topic Tackle coming soon. As always, stay solid, people.